All right, jet setters. I didn't plan on doing these like every day, but given the what's going on in the markets, that's just how it's unfolded. This is the SPY, the Aussie market daily. Few things going on here. One of the things that's a classic, right, is I've got another video which I'm going to do, which is about looking at turning put like tops and bottoms. What are some of the gives, and you can see here this has been a classic one, right? So this is back at the pre-COVID, where it did this. I don't know what you call this, complex head and shoulders, whatever, right? The M, don't know, right? But it would jubbed around, up, down, a double top, I guess. It's kind of one variation of it, and then it sinks, and that pattern, there, right? Well, lo and behold, that is basically, that's exactly, what it's done, of late. It's a bit of a tell. Those things don't always work out, but they do. I mean, the other thing I'm on it. This doesn't happen very often, where you get the market that doesn't backfill this. I guess the way you look at it is, you can map out an area and there's just one line that goes through it. And even these ones, there was a tiny one kind of here, but even that was kind of backfilled. Really, this whole rally, all the spikes up have been backfilled along the whole way, even this little one in here, except for here. Right? And that's why I guess I've got that on my radar. If it does have a big move, and that is a pretty hefty move, coming up to 20%, not unheard of, happens more than you think, right? To backfill that, it's a bit of an outlier, but maybe some deck, 6,500 puts, or maybe some deck 6,800 puts, could be a really interesting proposition. Maybe some January ones. That could be a sleeper. It'd be hard to find an options trade that would sell you like those deep out the money puts. So I used to trade options, for a book for the bank. And one of the other options traders when I was learning said, mate, puts are your friends, never sell puts. We traded currencies, right? But it's the deep out of the money stuff as an options trader you don't want to do, because they're little sleepers in your books. They're not that fun to manage. So here we are talking about backfilling. This is a little risk in here. You can see it's retraced strongly. I still think it's on its way after this recovery. I still think it's going to... I'm short. I squared up down here the other night, but I'm short at the moment. And I guess the way I'm playing it is this is, to me, a convincing level to be short. This would be a position where I'm in two minds whether I'll stop out up here or add to it. I guess if it goes there, that will be decision time for me. At the moment I'm in two minds. I really should make up my mind on that one. But at the moment I'm short. I think there's a good chance for it to retrace and start busting these lows now that, particularly in the US, it's made some further lows. If not, I do think it will come back to the bottom of this, towards this range at the very minimum, or chop around in here. So in a way, the risk reward is a bit of a, risking, 30 or 40 points for 200, or for 100, it's 200, right, from 7,300 down to 7,100. So that's not a bad risk reward. The RSI's, the lack of the strength there does concern me a little bit because it's not overbought yet. But you can see here the price action, to me, that looks like it's exhausting a little bit. But the RSI's, I think on the shorter time frame, the 15-minute probably shows that it's overbought. Yeah, well, it was overbought, come back. But you can see how it's just squeezing up into here. It will be a bit of a telling time to see what it does here, whether it turns or whether it busts. If it busts, it's going to go up to 73.40 in an instant, right? Right, that's the Aussie market. Let's look at the US quickly. The futures. That gives a bit of an insight into our market. Similar thing. It's they've kind of bounced a bit different. They hit a newer low, but they could do some backfilling in here. I think this looks a little bit exhausting as well, but it is tough. This could turn out to be like a double bottom and off it goes. This, I guess, the kind of test is what it does with this high here, whether it breaks it and goes through there. But it could easily kind of backfill from here. That's at like 43.80. Up to like 43, 44.40. That'd be a reasonable kind of test that level. I'm not short the US market. As I said, I tidied up my positions down here. But if it gets up to that 44.35, I'll be looking at shorting it there. That would be a great level to sell if it makes it. Again, with the Australian market, it's the RSI still doesn't say it's a sell here. For me, it was squaring up. I didn't want to really go long because I still think the trend is down. That's the US market. When we look at the cash market, we're going to look at this little bit in gap in there a little bit more to look at the technicals there, because it kind of tells an interesting story. So this little gap here, lo and behold, the last time it happened was there, right? So talking about like patterns in the top in ours and the top in the US market there. That's what happened. Whoops. That's what happened in the US market, and back in that time. Oh my God, what am I doing there? So there we go. And here it's well, it's a I don't know what I did with that one, but it's a similar thing. It went up and back, up formed the high, came back, gapped, and then down lower. I've drawn that horribly. What a disaster! But you can see it here where it goes. It's not a double top like ours. Kind of went up, made another high, gapped down, broke the trend. Here, similar thing, and it broke in the US. It broke that trend line there. And in ours, it's in the US. In our time now, 18 months on, it's done that break there. There is a concern though, in that the jury is still out, because up here, if you're watching the markets, I remember everyone at the time was talking about this, an island reversal, right? And if I look at this little island here, it is looking very much like the inverse of that island back there. Green, green, red, red. And this is obviously the rest. Red, red, green, could be a green. So that has me cautious, and one of the reasons why I'm not short this market. It is a bit conflicting being short the Aussie, but not the US one. But I think the US could grind higher and there'll be a better shorting level, whereas I think our market is at a reasonable shorting level now. So yeah, so I'm in a bit two minds. Was that island reversal mirrors that, which as much of a bearish signal as here, it's a bullish one there. But having said that, it has done the exact same here, where it has gone. Let me try and draw this again properly. This is really for my benefit, where it's gone up, back, newer high, and then a gap and down. Okay. Let's see. Now we should see it a little bit more clearly over here, yeah, where it's gone up and back, up for a new high, angle slightly different, gapped down lower. That's a doppelganger in terms of a top in the market. That's a bit of a doppelganger in terms of a term in the market. So like a lot of things, as if I really know where it's going to go. But then for here, if it does break, this to me is something that's I've always looked back on and has bothered me a little bit. That it just took off through here and it never backfilled it. And again, in all these rallies, even with this one where it took off here, it came back like a matter of months later and backfilled it. And that backfilling effort, that was like 10%. Right? So this one, like 10%, where does it take it to? Well, it takes it to the top of that, right? So just as there's a 10% correction here, back here, to fill at the time, which was this gap there. Oh, I don't know what's happening with the filling there. It's there. Well, let me draw it again. The this here was a like a gap that needed backfilling. That wasn't, which you can see how it resistance shot through all one way, came back, tested the top of this range, tested again, and it took a while for it to backfill, right? But backfill it did, and it backfilled with a good, strong 10% move. This is a similar thing where it has gapped through, come back, it's kind of tested the top of this gap, hasn't busted it, it's swung through, and a 10% move, 12% move would take it to fill that. That would be nice. The odds of that happening, I don't know. To me, like, in all honesty, like 5%, 10% at the moment, just because this one might take precedence, and you can see, look, let's face it, it's a bull trend. This is broken, right? But until it does some more damage below here, right, this is still pretty low probability. It's a hopeful probability. Breaking this will be the big one. If it breaks this, then that, I'd say, is a foregone conclusion. That's that market. Let's have a quick look at the currency. Aussie market, still down. What can I say? It is still at an interesting juncture here, where it's obviously doing some work around this 42.50 level. As I said, it's at 42. That's 72.50. That's it's still really in the middle of no man's land of this like 71 to 74.5 range. It's still working out what it wants to do with itself. I'm still happier to be short. I'm still short this rather than long, if nothing else, because at the top of this range, again, the risk reward, that's like 1.7% up to the top of that range, 3.7 down to the bottom of the range. So my target is down here for the bottom of the trend. My stop's more above that. So the risk reward, I shorted it when it was up here, right? So I've been writing it, shorted it up here, wrote it down, squared it up, sold it again here, after a little bit of fizzing around in here, sold it again here, and I'm short and writing it down. So I've got a good level there, and I guess that's the benefit of trading with the trend, because it means if it breaks this trend, right, which would be, maybe here, like in, a few days, something like that. If it breaks that, that's still below where I got into the trade anyway. So, not as juicy as here, but essentially my stop is lowering as the trend goes down. It's getting more favourable. I think that's about it. So have a good one, and I guess the things to watch, particularly like in our market, you can see it a bit more clearly in the cash market, is these levels for it to come back to, 73.60 level, that corresponds to that 73.30 level, 7300, 7330 level in the futures, about 30-point discount. If it gets there, that will be I think in my mind, a great short. Stop a little bit above that. As I said, I'm short, not a great level, but I do think it's running out of steam, and it's more headed down rather than up at the moment, particularly given this legging, this cascading that it's doing. All right, that's all. Have a good one. Ciao.